So, this is a thinklet that I've been thinking on for quite a while, and I just decided that it's time to actually throw it out there. And it's a thinklet, so these are just ideas, and they could be controversial because I'm going to bring up a character in our culture, which is Jordan Peterson, the psychologist, the Canadian psychologist. And I would label this as Jordan Peterson inevitably needed to become just another internet troll. And so what is that? And why would I say that? And do I have anything to back up that idea? So I'll give you a little bit of background. I probably found Jordan Peterson 3 years ago or so. Maybe it was a little longer than that ago. And I was really taken by him because he used a lot of languaging that I had as a mentor. And I enjoyed the how much he used empirical data, how much he really seemed to get away from and cut through straw man arguments. And I was very impressed with it. And so I watched hours and hours and hours of Jordan Peterson, and mostly a fan of Jordan Peterson. One of the big things that I noticed right away was different from my mentor. I would say they probably were on par with each other as far as knowledge and everything. Maybe a little different scope, but very Jungian. But the big thing that I noticed was that Jordan Peterson wasn't a really happy person. He had a lot of seriosity, and that was something that I wasn't attracted to. But I still respected him. But there was a few things that were really interesting to me, that when he would expound on ideas in interviews, and he would get to like ideas around homeless. What do you do with homeless? Because he's very much, capitalistic, and this is the right way to do it. But then when you get to these big issues that have to do with this notion of capitalism, that he couldn't answer, and then talking about people with low IQs. If you ever watch him in an interview and you start talking about it, he's like, I don't know what to do with these people. We can't even put them in the military. They just don't have the function for this culture, or for, his point of view. It just didn't make sense. So these were the really big ones that I started to question. He hasn't really put everything together yet. And another one is about his ideas around God and Christianity, and and watching some of the debates that he has where he just loses a solid foundation and goes into faith and just basically taking Christianity's side, and no matter what, he takes Christianity's side. And so that for that was, in order to do that, you had to bend the truth of it. And so it's been interesting watching him over the years. And then I kind of jumped on Twitter not too long ago and noticed that he was basically another, like a Elon Musk troll, where he had to, if there was anything about, especially with trans people, he had to have some kind of negative remark about it. And it seemed just as long as it fit his narrative, he had to share it because he was so right. His point of view of trans people is so right. And he will even and maybe he has points about the way that people are going around it. See, I think this trans thing is a very, very interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon because it's blowing up everybody, and it's even blowing up Jordan Peterson. It seems to be taking a side, and it's more complex than that. And So anyway, what is it? So what it seems to me, if I had to just generalize Jordan Peterson, he's a lot like Elon Musk now, who is, it doesn't, he can't say a nice thing about anything that has any kind of liberal tint to it. It's like he has that same anti-woke phenomenon in him. He's more passionate about anti-woke than he is, and it's really funny because that it's also like, do you see that the woke movement was meant to be a very positive thing? It's kind of like, to me, the swastika. The swastika used to be a very happy symbol in Hinduism, and then it got aggressively remarketed, and that's what it seems like the anti-woke movement is doing. They are aggressively trying to rip apart something that was supposed to be beautiful, and that's very interesting. And it's so dualistic, and it's like, I would just expect that somebody with Jordan Peterson's intellect would understand that he is feeding an enemy, and it's to have more people on his side is more important than is he doing something beautiful? Is he actually bringing attention to something? So I'm going to just shift right over in that moment to this idea of Christianity. So one thing about Christianity today is it seems like Christians are more interested in people being Christian than they are about being Christian-like. And so, like, there are just people that are just despicable human beings that call themselves a Christian, and you don't hear Christians, up in arms, even like, this whole thing against the drag queens and this going against trans people and all of this stuff. And they're saying this is the biggest problem that we're having in this, but just like we're not going to talk about the Christian pastors who are constantly being found to be child molesters, and that doesn't seem to be an issue, even though it is so. It is happening, right? It's just one after another. These people keep getting flushed out. We have the giant Christian Catholicism that's doing the same thing. So it's interesting that. So why would I say he had to become a troll? Because his perspective hits a dead end, and it hits the dead ends when he gets to people with low IQs, and he gets to dead ends, of the people on the bottom of this capitalistic society. But he'll still say, it's the best, it's the best. And it occurred to me the other day that not even myself, I couldn't even question Christianity as being the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. It is the absolute most disgusting, pathetic, gross thing that ever happened to the world. And I just realized it the other day, because what I would try to do, because I grew up Christian and was enamored with Jesus, and then I just realized, that there was so much hypocrisy in Christianity that it wasn't leading people to the things that Jesus was talking about. It was just leading them to their own version of prejudice. And it just became obvious, but I still wanted to integrate Christianity into it being a beautiful thing, and so I never, I had the most amazing mentor, and he considered himself a Christian, which was so strange to me because he was so open to all these other ideas and everything. And then he would expand all these really great things from the Bible, or the actual interpretations, because he spoke those languages. So he actually understood the meaning of it, not just whatever you just choose to make those meanings of it. And so I had never really considered that Christianity could it be the worst thing. And then I was pondering this idea that Jordan has been coming out lately and really backing Christianity, and he has this great story about how Christianity formed language, and and it is like, and if you he's just so passionate about it. And what I realize is I don't think Jordan Peterson's ever considered that that could have been the biggest fuck up in all of history, that actually everything that he is cheering is actually leading to his downfall, where he gets to the point where he gets cognitive dissonance because he can't take in any information any further. And what I'm saying by this is Jordan Peterson's very, and I can't remember exactly, he's very much into empirical data in psychology. And people are just like, oh yeah, that's knowing people to, knowing exactly how they act and who they are. And from that, we can figure out this and we can figure out that and whatever else. But has Jordan Peterson ever thought that perhaps the origination of that psychology came from the biggest fuck up in the world, which was the creation of the Bible? To the creation of the Bible, and everybody's psychology, or the world's psychology, has been trained according to that. They took over time. They created the calendar. They it's so ingrained in our culture. What if they are the ones that created the big five personality traits? And I would also say that Jordan Peterson can't figure it all out because Jordan Peterson can't remove himself from the equation. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you listen to him, he'll talk about his suffering, how hard he's had it, and how hard it is to do things, and and what it is to have a great relationship, and so there is like, no matter where his perspective goes, he needs to be the hero of the story. And since he has a high IQ, yeah, he doesn't know what to do with the low IQs, but he never questions the fact that perhaps human psychology would be better if we didn't focus it on IQ. But because it's good for his esteem that he has a high IQ, he wants the hierarchy to remain IQ based, intellectually based. And from there, because you can see when Jordan Peterson hits his ending, and I got to say, like, this is props to Jordan Peterson. I think Jordan Peterson has done the best job of extrapolating the ego paradigm. The fact that the ego paradigm never finishes itself. It doesn't have answers to answer every question. And that's exactly where Jordan Peterson gets stuck. He will give you that's when he gets all mumbly, is the minute that he gets to these really hard points, the IQ thing, where he or his family are not the heroes of the story. And that is the basis of the ego, is identity. And you have to be able to, if you want to see the world from a very real perspective, you need to be able to take yourself out and not be the hero. That's just being the hero. And then when you come down to it, you realize that he has complicated the ego, because that's what the ego world does. It complicates everything. It's really hard to put the pieces of the world together through the ego, because everybody's bending the world to meet their hero archetype. Everybody's got to be it. So Jordan Peterson's like Elon Musk now. He's got to be out there. And if there's anything about trans and he doesn't like it, and he is the parent, he wants to be the parent. And that's the conservative point of view right now, is we know what's best for your children. So anyway, this is a developing idea, and yeah. So is he just, how does a person? I'm just so embarrassed for who I thought he was when he was just doing interviews and really, really um, structured and had foundation. And it just seems like he's got lost in the internet troll world, and he became a troll somewhere along the way. And in his trollness, it's just, I'm going to find all the information, and I'm going to create the enemy for everybody, and that's the anti-woke. And that's the same thing with the Christian religion is, hey, we want, the most important thing is that people call themselves a Christian, not what you do when you're a Christian, but number one is being Christian and considering yourself, because it's a fantasy and you want people to believe in the same fantasy.